Hey, everybody, and we're live. Welcome in the space this evening. We are one and done Thursday night live, not Tuesday night live, y'all. Come on in the space, share, like, comment. I am going to share right now. So give me a second to go ahead and share this to my own Facebook page.
And as Onika is sharing that to her page, once again, we do welcome everyone into the room this evening. And Nika already stated that we are no longer Tuesday Night Live, and we are now Thursday Night Live bi-weekly. So the next Thursday that we will be having would be in the first week of October. Be looking on Facebook and IG the time and the date that we will be having that. And why are we no longer Tuesday night?
We are no longer Tuesday Night Live because we are actually out in the community working in action. So One and Done is on Tuesday evenings in Freedom Works. Okay, Freedom Works running groups. This past week was basically just an information session, and it probably will be for a couple of weeks moving forward before One and Done really starts to dive off into, the curriculum and all of those things. So come on out, check us out. We there.
Absolutely. And that could be found 2929 Emerson Avenue North, Minneapolis, Minnesota, right in the heart of North Minneapolis. There's been a lot of challenges with violence within our community. And so the more light that we have within our community, the more love would be shared, right? The more hope, the more vision will be displayed in our communities. And so we're not running away from the different challenges that we are faced with in our community, but we're embracing our community in spite of it all. I would just like to pass along to individuals out there that often the light that is within our communities is often buried, right? Is often buried by negative energy, and it's buried by violence, and it's buried by just a plethora of things, factors. And so what we need is for more light to be in our community, not foolishly, but with wisdom. We do want to exercise wisdom, right? When we are in our communities. And so we want to shed some light and give some hope, and most of all, do it in the spirit of love. We want to thank those who have been following us on IG, Instagram. We want to thank those who have been having these conversations with us on the Facebook page. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your continued support. And we need you to continue to do so to encourage our hearts, because sometimes it gets hard. Would you say?
I would say it does. And just to piggyback on just the light, there is, a lot of times, the light gets masked in like negativity.
Yes.
And we hear all the negative things that are happening on the north side and all the violence and all those things. But there is light over there, and there are people who want to work, want to be a support, and want to help. So let's not ever get it twisted. There's still good people in our community.
Absolutely. Well said. And we can't afford to give up hope on our communities. All right. And that's one of the factors and reasons why individuals continue on in behavior patterns, right? That we do so because it feels like we are experiencing abandonment already. And then on top of that, we're not being embraced. We're not being received We don't have individuals engaging with us. And so when that takes place, we feel like we're in this dark, lonely, cold world all by ourselves, and we revert back to what we know. And what we know is, not being law-abiding citizens. That what we know is going back to substance use and abuse. What we know is going back to survival mode, and survival mode doesn't always look pretty. All right, and so we need individuals, organizations. We need communities, those who are of the church or the faith community. We need you all. We need everyone to help rebuild our communities. All right, we need help to shed light and give hope to those that are traveling through those city streets. And so, with that being said, we thank you for your love and your support on Tuesday nights, but we are now Thursday night live. And these community empowerment groups are not just for the residents at Freedom Works, okay? It's
That's
open
right.
to the community. And so
That's
if
right.
you want to come on out, all right, if you want to come on out and partake in what's being shared in these Tuesday evening weekly circles, come on out, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Hey, good evening, Dr. Foster. We love you. Your son and your daughter are doing wonderful things out there in Wisconsin. God is really blessing and having his way, and we are believing God to continue to do so and do great and mighty things. So thanks for the words of encouragement. Let's dive in just a little bit into the conclusion of this series of Unmasking Fatherhood. And in the past, we've talked about why we chose this topic, all right, the significance of it. And then we went ahead and highlighted some of the factors that are not really, that are problematic. And so on today, we want to conclude on a positive note.
What up, Alan Foster, the bishop? How you doing?
Greetings, sir. Greetings, sir, on to you. We love you. And so today this evening, we're going to conclude on a positive note on what are some foundational steps, healthy foundational steps into fatherhood that an individual can continue to build upon. And so with that being said, we're going to talk about being actively present, right? So a father should be actively present in his role when being in his kids' lives. What do some of you all who are watching, come on and throw it in the comment box. What does actively present mean to you? All right. And while you're typing that in, honey, when you think about when I hear that word actively present, it's possible for an individual to be in a setting but be absent in the same time. Mm-hmm. All right. So when I'm present in the place physically, it doesn't mean that I'm present in the place mentally and emotionally. All right. And so to be present, we have to be present from a holistic standpoint, mind, body, and spirit. What do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely correct. And so when I think about being present, I think that you are actively engaged with your child on every single level, going through every single stage, from their infancy on up through, adulthood. And sometimes it can get difficult. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's hard. Like parenting is not, easy. It takes a lot of what do I want to say, our energy mm-hmm. to be actively present. And so just some little things that I think about, like mm-hmm. the TV shouldn't be teaching our children, okay, right? Mm-hmm. We should be teaching our children. I know a lot of times it's if you're a single parent, you get home, you don't work, you're tired, and it's easy to set your child down in front of a TV. And this is just one example, just so you can get some rest, some respite. But I think as a parent, remember our kids didn't ask to be here. So I think as a parent, we have to a lot of times we have to sacrifice and we have to set our own needs aside. You know what I'm saying? To be present and active in parenting our children.
Absolutely, well said. Let's take a couple of these comments here. We asked the question, "What does actively being present actively look like?" And Alwyn A. Foster says, "Showing up to games, showing up and engaged." Mm-hmm. Okay, I like that. I like that because we not only want to show up, but we want to be engaged. Mm-hmm. When we do show up in the place. Mm-hmm. And so that means that there should be an interaction. There should be a level of intimacy. What does engagement look like? That looks like being involved. That looks like when we do go to one of our sons or our daughters' activities with the school, that means that we are involved, all right? We are showing up to parent and teacher conferences, all right? We are meeting the coaching staff, okay? We are not just being present in our kids' lives, but we are showing that we are willing to help the other kids because there might be some other kids on the team who don't have a father figure. And so we want to be engaged. We want to be tuned in when we're showing up.
Right. And so when you talk about games, it's show up to the games, be involved, but also know what's happening with your child on the opposite side, right? Mm-hmm. So you talked about schooling. Mm-hmm. So be engaged in knowing them grades, be engaged in understanding that it's student athlete. Right? Mm-hmm. So the student part comes first. So you're supporting your child in those academics so that they can be successful on the game side.
Uh-huh. And honey, I just have to say this, and I say this respectfully too. I think we ought to be careful when we throw out that word child because we got young teenagers, mm-hmm. all right? And we have to respect that. We have to show them that we see them growing, maturing, and developing in life, and that they go through phases and phases of development. Yeah. And we want to be present with them, actively engaging with them in each phase of their development. And so part of that respect is saying, I know that you were a child at this age, but now I know that you are a young teenager. And then there's another season where they're going to become middle-aged teenagers. Mm-hmm. And then there's going to be another season when they're going to be older teenagers into young adults and eventually adulthood. Mm-hmm. And so we want to be conscious of their transitional periods of life. I just want to throw that out there. I just want to, I was thinking about a moment here, that game piece. I'll never forget when James, our son, invited me to his basketball game when he was a freshman at Robertsdale Armstrong. And I tell you, that boy can leap out the gym. And although we are a blended family, right? Mm-hmm. Man, when that brother was on that court, I was a proud father, all right? So being engaged in our kids and in our teenagers' lives, it's a twofold thing that's happening, all right? It's blessing them, it's encouraging them, it's showing love to them, but also the reward is that no matter what the scoreboard says at the end of the night, it's a win-win situation for you all's relationship because the love, it makes you feel good when you're actively engaged in our kids or in our young teenagers, middle-aged teenagers, whatever their phase or season of development may be, lives. And so, yes.
And I was just going to say, and it's important because the student, the child knows that you're, they feel supported. Mm-hmm. I know our son hated it when I used to go to his games, and I know we're talking about fatherhood, but hated it when I went to his games because I was the active parent. I was hollering and yelling and get the ball, put your hands up. Like that was me. And at the time, sometimes when kids are younger, they're like, oh man, my mom, she got a big old mouth. But when I wasn't there, right, he noticed that there was that lack of support for him specifically. You know what I mean? So it's noticed, like kids know when, okay, they feel something, they feel that lack.
Yeah, appreciate that. And there's a couple of things that I'm hearing right now, but for the sake of time, I won't dive into both of those, and I try to remember at least the first one. But I want to get to another comment that Alwyn threw out there. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris, welcome on.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. And please, chat in that, hit the comment box if you're still with us. What do you mean by right? Because I lost the thought and so much has been said. Hey, girl. Tell the husband and little Jackson we said hi, and the entire tribe over there. But Alwyn says being in the room and connecting with them as often as possible. Being in the room and connecting with them as often as possible. And once again, being in the room or being in the space is from a holistic standpoint. So it's mind, body, and spirit, okay? We need to be listening with an attentive ear. And listening doesn't just mean from an audible standpoint, but we're listening to what's not being said, which means that it's a deeper dive. It's listening beyond the surface level, all right? But how do we connect with? I have a question. If you guys can help us out this evening. If the relationship has been fractured somewhat, how do we reconnect? How do we reconnect? So if the connection was once there, and I'm thinking about an analogy here. So a lot of the times I go into different zones, and my connection from my cell phone would drop, right? And so I had to wait until I travel and get reconnected by the cellular rooftop or whatnot until I'm reconnected. With that being said, often life events take place to where there's a disconnect between relationship between father and their sons or father and their daughters. What would some of you all say are some ways to reconnect? What are some ways? What are some ways while they're thinking about that, while the audience is thinking about that? What are some ways we can reconnect with our kids?
I think so. When I think about it, I think as a child, it's not they're a child, so it's not really their responsibility to reach out. It's our responsibility as the adults to reach out. So if there's a fracture, I mean, I don't know what the fracture is, but if there is a fracture, I think as the adult in the relationship, I need to take the initiative to call, to, come to the house if I'm not living in the house, but I need to take the initiative to rebuild.
I like that.
Not the child. And I say not the child because oftentimes children, they don't, they might have all of these emotions and they can't process it. They don't know, necessarily where it's coming from. They're not mature enough. And so as the adult in the relationship, it's my responsibility to reach out if there's a fracture with my child.
I agree, and that's from the professional. I'm not going to even touch that. Well said. Chris is saying, start. I like that. She says, start, right? So the first thing we should be doing is starting off by listening to them when they talk.
Yes.
What do you got to say about that?
Yes, that's important because a lot of times we have learned that how children feel is not valid. You don't know what you don't know what you're talking about. And so we brush it off. But I think we need to stop and we need to listen intensely as the adult to what's going on with our children. I agree, Chris.
And I just, yes, we agree. And I just want to say, we don't listen.
We don't.
And a lot of that comes from our, from barriers that we have learned. as Onika said, this is learned behavior, right? We've been taught, hey, do as I say, not as I do.
Yep.
We've been taught that our kids are just machines. You're here to just work. But the reality of it is that our kids, are saying don't get to choose their parents, all right? Our kids did not ask to be here. Our kids are brought here because two adults, and in a lot of cases, kids have come together, laid down, and the result was wham, 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 a lifetime responsibility. All right. And I want to throw this out there when I say in some cases kids have laid down. Age don't make somebody grown. Woo! Come on now, preacher. Age doesn't make someone a man. That's not what manhood is. A lot of us, we are grown by age, but we need our emotional side of things, our mentality side of things need to catch up with our biological age. And this is one thing I want to say. This is why we need to vote the right people in office, because a lot of our kids are committing criminal acts and being sentenced as adults when their brain ain't even fully matured and developed, and they never get a second chance at life. They never get a second chance at life. And so it's imperative. It's imperative that when it's time to vote, we're voting accordingly, having the right people in office, because our kids are kids and they've just been misled by what they've been taught. All right. And this has been a generational teaching that has perpetuated itself. But we are here today to hopefully shine some light to break some of those generational false ideologies of what parenting is, and help introduce us to what parenting should be. All right. Yeah. What do we got? Dr. Foster. Go ahead, honey.
And maybe you want to rebuild by connecting with the child in an area that they are interested in, or they are comfortable in that area of their life. Absolutely. I think that's important. I think showing an interest in what they're interested in helps to rebuild connections and build connections. A lot of times, and that goes back to what Alan was talking about, show up to the games. If you know your child loves to hoop and he puts a lot of effort in hooping, then show up and support, and you're building, you know what I'm saying, right there.
And absolutely, I'll say this: when we don't take time to plan our schedule accordingly and don't show up, our kids sometimes feel like they're not supported, and they might be thinking about suicide. I know often I wondered, my father's been deceased since I was 6 years old. I wondered what it would feel like to have my father in the stands like my teammates had their fathers and their support. Now, I had my brothers and my cousins that showed up. I did. And I thank God for that. But it wasn't the same. That thought was still there. That thought was still there. And I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know who was equipped to really even deal with that thought. Like Onika was saying, that those emotions that came with the thought brought depression. And then the thought increased and escalated past depression to suicide. And I'm gonna tell you why. I can remember I was in the 10th grade. I thought that if I committed suicide, that I'd be with my dad. And that was my thought as a 10th grader. I want to be with my dad so bad, because I wondered why I look like the split image of this picture. And everybody say you walk like him, you talk like him, you're handsome like him, you're gifted, you're talented like him. And I wanted to be with him to the point to where I contemplated suicide. Now, needless to say, I did not go through with that, but I masked my pain with drugs, alcohol, sex. And it's only by the grace of God that I don't have 1,000 kids running around out here. It's only by the grace of God that, I don't have I haven't contracted a sexual transmitted disease. But the reality of it is that I'm one out of how many individuals when I was growing up, and still today, what that number may be for our kids. So we have to actively be present in the lives of our kids and in the lives of our young teens. Let's take some more here. Get it says, Amen. Get them in their element and they will talk.
That is so true.
That's good.
That is so true. I'm gonna say, like, as an educator, when I connect to my kids, when I pull out of them, when I show interest in the things that they like, they become like this open book. They connect with me on like so many levels, and they connect in a way that other teachers don't connect. And so that's what, in the education field, we say it all the time. You have to build those relationships with kids, because once you build that relationship with a child, they trust you. And even if because kids don't always do everything right. We don't always do everything right. Mm-hmm. But even if that is the case, mm-hmm. even in the classroom, even in a school setting, they trust you. And so they'll come back to you. And also they'll go to the ends of the earth to try to please you.
Mm-hmm. I believe that.
So connecting with them in their element on the things that they like. Mm-hmm. On the things that they're interested in, like Dr. Foster said.
Yeah, that's powerful. Hey, how you doing, Brother Jesse Sherwood? Jesse Sherwood is a great childhood friend of mine who's really like a brother of mine. Thanks for chiming in and being present with us this evening. God bless you. It's amazing how that 30 minutes went by so quick. Time really does fly when we're having fun. I tell you what, we want to have some closing remarks here, though. I think it's appropriate to have some closing remarks here. My wife, can I just kind of ride that wave? You talked about that, go to the lengths, all right, to please us and to have that relationship with us. Mm-hmm. They will go to the lengths so far out that they will misbehave just to get our attention. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. And so if we are not paying attention, if we are not paying attention, if we are not actively engaging with our kids and with our teens, it's possible that some of the things that they're doing that are not healthy is really them going to the lengths to get our attention. Mm-hmm. And so before it gets there, let us actively be present, be engaged, listen, start off by listening beneath the surface, and do all of these things in love. All right? And understand that we're not going to do everything perfect. Mm-hmm. All right? And give room for that, because although we are the adults, we're still growing in adulthood. We're still maturing and developing in adulthood. But that's why when we do have our mistakes, we need to own that, because that teaches them accountability and responsibility. And one day, we're going to look up, they're going to be walking down the aisle saying, I do, and having kids of their own. And we want them to be able to have a template. We want them to be able to have a decent example on what they can mirror so that they can be successful in parenthood themselves. With that being said, maybe there are some individuals out there this evening that are not able to be actively involved in your kids' lives, and you got to go through the court system way of doing things. We want to give you two resources. We want to give you, the first one is the Father Project. All right. The Father Project is 2700 East Lake Street, Suite 1100. They are open from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The number is 612-724-5855. 3539. Once again, this is called the Father Project, East Lake Street, Suite 1100. They are open from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The number is area code 612-724-3539. All right? Don't go about it the wrong way trying to be actively involved in your kids' lives, because that'll get you caught up in the criminal justice system. All right? And sometimes we just kind of do need that third party to be involved so that things can be done in decency and in order until we all grow, mature, and develop to where we can have some type of civilization, if you would. And the other one is Mad Dads. Mad Dads can help us out too. Mad Dads can been doing this for a long time with Brother VJ. All right. And that is right over there, South Minneapolis, right off of East Lake Street, 39th and 4th Avenue. I do apologize for not having the fullness of his contact information. But if you look up Mad Dads, go to your Google, look up Mad Dads, you're going to see the CEO there. And then on their website will give you all of the content that you need to start taking the right steps in the right direction to being actively involved in your kids' lives. Any closing remarks for you, honey?
Yes, this is what I want to say. A lot of times we don't give credit where credit is due. And even though we're talking about absentee fathers and fathers not being there, I know it is a myth. I feel like it is a myth that we don't have great fathers in the Black community, because we do. There are some phenomenal fathers. And so even just looking on this thread, I mean, Deacon Foster, phenomenal father. Alwyn, phenomenal father. Chris Worrell's husband, Joe, phenomenal father. Jesse, phenomenal father. Yes. And of course,
playing college football. And of course, come on.
Of course, the hubby right here, phenomenal father and Papa. So you all, I just want to say we don't give credit where credit is due. And it is a myth that our Black fathers don't show up. Sure, there are some obstacles that some of our fathers have, but we all have those obstacles. And when I look around my circle, I see amazing fathers. Amazing. So y'all keep it up. Keep it up.
Keep it up. We love you. Thank you for those final remarks. Make the devil out to be a lie.
That's right.
Expose the media. They like to try to highlight our neighborhoods in the negative energy, but my wife just highlighted us in the positive energy. We love you. Thank you for supporting. Until next time, be strong. Keep on doing what you're doing. And remember, it takes a lot less energy to smile than it does to frown.
Deuces.